So I've been doing yoga for about 2 months now, and to be honest with you, I've never been more flexible in my life. I was always a really stiff person, and I just had no flexibility whatsoever. I would get tension headaches, I would get muscle cramps and spasms, and I was just not flexible at all. And so I finally decided to do yoga, and I've been doing it for about 2 months now, 3 times a week, and it's honestly been one of the best decisions that I've made for my physical health. Yoga's so much more than stretching. It's really is a workout for an hour. It works out your body. I mean, you're working your core, your arms, you're improving your flexibility, your overall strength, muscle tone, and honestly, you just feel better afterwards. And when I went into it, I wasn't expecting to be tired. I wasn't expecting it to be as strenuous as it as it is. And that was one of the biggest shocking things that I learned about yoga was just how honestly it's pretty you feel kind of tired after, but in a good way. And you feel just better, healthier. My appetite noticeably increased, and I feel like I've just been more in tune to my body, and I've just been way my flexibility has increased substantially just from this past 2 months. And so it's really, really been incredible. And it's just been really, really positive for me. And honestly, it's going to help me be a better software developer because when you're feeling better mentally and physically, you're going to be better suited to do your actual, day to day job. And this is something that I was not expecting when I first started to do yoga. I wasn't really expecting to, well, to be honest, really, I wasn't really expecting to see any results. Uh, you know, it's easy to stretch, whatever, but it's easy to stretch for 10 minutes. But it's hard to stretch for an hour. And let's be honest, when you are running late, you go to the gym, you're late, the first thing that's going to get cut is stretching. But that's one of the most vital things about working out because if you don't have the full range of motion, you're never going to develop your muscles fully and completely. And so by having to schedule a time where I go to yoga at this time for an hour, it forces me to stretch and do everything else for an hour. So I'm warmed up and I'm loose. And that's something that I would have never done, especially not for an hour apart, outside of a class, outside of something that I was actually going to. So that in and of itself has just been a huge benefit for me. It's just gotten me to stretch regularly, be more mindful of how my body is feeling, what muscles are tight, what I need to do to react depending on how I'm feeling in a certain situation, and honestly just put me more in tune to my breathing because you're breathing very consciously, very intently for the whole hour, out and in with every motion you do. And so that puts me more in tune to how I'm breathing on a more regular basis. Even outside of the class, I'm thinking about how am I breathing? And it's made me think about, breathing as being more of an active activity rather than a passive activity. And it's funny that you sometimes you don't even realize when you're not breathing correctly and then you get winded and you wonder why am I winded? But sometimes all it takes is a little bit of an adjustment to how you're breathing, whether you're breathing through your stomach, with your chest, a combination of the two, in with the nose, out with the mouth, however you're doing it. All this is going to amount to basically how you feel, and it's going to affect so much of your day-to-day life. And that's one of the biggest benefits that I've seen just from doing yoga, just simply for 2 months, which I would consider to be a very short amount of time. 2 months is just you're just getting past the trial period, in my opinion. But to see these results just in these first 2 months has been incredible. I could not stand straight up with my knees straight and bend down and touch my toes without honestly just irritating my back. But now, after 2 months of yoga, I can do that successfully and it doesn't bother my back at all. So just that noticeable increase in and of itself has paid off for the whole experience. And so in software development, because this is a very stationary job, right? This is a very sedentary job, you're looking more or less in front of you, and you're not moving your neck a lot. Your neck tightens up, your back stiffens up, especially at your lower back, depending on what kind of chair you have. Your arms are in an awkward position because they're at the keyboard. Everything kind of is in like the worst possible orientation, and you get tight and you get headaches. At least I did. And so yoga not only is going to help with that substantially, but it's going to help me to be more cognizant of how I'm sitting and how I'm breathing at rest. And when I start to notice my neck start to get a little tight or my lower back get a little tight, I know some things I should do or some exercises to loosen that up. And I have a stand up desk and I have other things in place that help me, keep my head elevated, avoid the forward head slouch, or, avoid rounding shoulders, all that stuff I have in place. But when your default state of being is to be idle and sitting, it's incredible how much you begin to slouch forward and lean forward and how much your neck begins to droop down. So it's very important, especially for software developers, that you have your screen, the center of your screen, at level with your eyes. So you're not looking down or looking up, because that'll put strain on your neck over a prolonged period of time. And it's important that you're looking straight. You're not looking side to side or like a little bit slanted. That'll put strain on your neck too. And it's important also your elbows form a 90-degree on your from your forearms to your upper arms. Your elbows are at a 90. And it's important when you're sitting up that you're not like, hunched, right? You've seen people where their neck really leans forward and they have a lot of rounding of the shoulders. You need something that your shoulders are going to stay back, your neck's going to be back, it's going to be straight, and your arms are going to be at a 90. And it's very important, but it's hard to hold that because that's a more active sitting position. It's a more engaged style of sitting, to be honest with you. And that is not my normal and my default sitting position. My default is like my legs are going to be up on my desk and I'm going to be like leaning back like this on the keyboard. Like that's my default, right? But that's not good for my posture. That's not good for my back. And it's hard to be active, especially like sitting, and then try to focus on software development. It's hard to do that because you are like having to basically multitask in your head. Like, oh, am I engaged in my core? Am I at a 90? Am I looking straight? All these things when you're trying to solve some system design problem or some logic in the code, right? It's hard to do that. And I feel like yoga for me is helping me to make that more of my default state, right? Make a better posture more my default. And through increased flexibility, through honestly just better muscle flexibility, I'm going to be more able to be at ease in that better resting position because my chest is going to be opened up. My back is going to be a lot looser, so I'm not going to be as uncomfortable when I'm engaged in a better sitting position. You can get whatever chair you need to get, and you can get the lumbar support, you can get the neck support. All that stuff helps, but if you're already tight, having that stuff is not going to relieve the tightness. It may honestly make it a little bit worse. And for me, what happened was when I got too tight, when I let my muscles just really tighten up, I would wake up either with a headache or I would wake up with some like a pinch, it felt like, and I would have these muscle spasms. So I'd have to go and stretch and put hot and cold packs on it, icy hot and all these things. And I'd have to do that and it would just keep happening, especially if I either ran or slept on my neck wrong or did any number of things to cause some kind of agitation. All these things would happen. And then I would go and sit in my chair and I would get relief, but by me sitting in my chair, I'm just allowing my muscles to tighten up in an incorrect position, therefore making it even that much harder to go and stretch them out. And the unfortunate thing about stretching is that sometimes when you stretch, you may feel worse in the beginning if you haven't stretched in a while. And the tendency for us is to overstretch, right? You try to really stretch too far and then you hurt yourself or risk tearing something, which is not what you want to do. So, yoga is very, I feel like, an easy way to break into that, to break into the habit of stretching. And the movements help you to kind of ease into it, I feel like, because you can go whatever pace you need. You can modify the movements accordingly. And it's very interesting. And I really have gotten a lot out of doing yoga, and it's been a really, really positive experience. So if you're at all curious, to be honest with you, I would highly recommend doing yoga, especially if you are a software developer, if you work at any kind of desk, if you're sedentary a lot um, at a desk job. I would check it out because I feel like the benefits that I've experienced have been extremely good. So thank you all for watching. I'll see you in the next one.